Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on Audit Planning Simplified. My name is Samantha Varner. I am the head of product marketing here at Prosymmetry, and I'm so excited to have you join us today. Today, Sean is going to be covering, smarter resource planning for internal audit success. Again, really excited to bring this topic to you. This topic is one that we are very familiar with. We work with several internal audit teams on this exact thing and have seen a lot of success for them. So we wanted to bring that to you all. With that said, I do have a few housekeeping items before we get started. The question that is always asked, yes, you will receive a recording of this webinar tomorrow. It will be sent to you via email, the one that you registered with, and you will receive a recording to it. Additionally, we will be taking questions offline. So what that means is please submit any questions that you have, and we are going to be individually following up with every question that is asked. So please do not hesitate to ask, and you will get an email from one of our team members directly answering that question. Additionally, on today's session, we are going to have two polls for you to answer right at the beginning. We just want to kind of see, who's in this session, what tools you are using, kind of where you are at currently with your own resource planning. So we're really excited to see that. Those will be here right in the beginning. And then finally, there will be a handout available to you. I'm going to publish that right after this, where you are going to be able to download our guide to audit resource planning. In fact, I think it's available right now. So feel free to download that. That is a completely free guide for you to use. Download it, take a look at it. It is a resource for you. So with all of that said, Sean, I think it's time that we kick this off. What do you think?
Sounds great, Samantha. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Awesome. All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Audit Planning Simplified, Smarter Resource Planning for Internal Audit Success. As Samantha mentioned, I'm Sean Palis, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we explore how internal audit teams can simplify and enhance their resource planning to drive greater success. I've got a couple of slides we'll talk through with some evidence and some overview stuff, and then we'll jump into some live demos to show you practically how these things can be done. No doubt, as audit leaders, you face increasing demands to deliver value, ensure compliance, and quickly adapt to organizational changes. These pressures are magnified by the challenge of managing limited resources with varying skills and experience, while ensuring audits are completed on time and aligned with your organization's priorities. That's why today's discussion is so important. How can internal audit teams improve resource planning to optimize capacity, balance workloads, and remain agile in the face of emerging risks, new regulations, and unplanned audits, unplanned engagements? In this session, we'll share some practical strategies using Tempus Resource for managing your resources, including named resources, teams, roles, and skills for both near, mid, and long-term planning and forecasting, balancing team capacity to align workloads with the right skill sets and expertise, and adapting to dynamic needs. This is critical, using scenario planning and what-if modeling to proactively identify opportunities to shape and then reshape your audit plan in the face of changing priorities and in reaction to externalities. Ultimately, our goal is to help you transition from a reactive approach to resource management, maybe likely taking place in Excel, to a structured, simplified, and data-driven process using Tempus Resource. So let's jump in. So as Samantha mentioned a moment ago, we'd love to get some of your feedback. And before we dive deeper into today's discussion, I'd like to get a quick sense of where you are and your teams are when it comes to, if you are using a GRC product and what that is. We very frequently integrate with and tie into GRC systems. And then would love to understand a bit more about how you're managing resources today, if at all. And it's totally okay. This is a safe environment. No one's going to see it. It's okay to say you don't do it at all. It's perfectly acceptable to say use Excel, which is what we see some of the world's largest, best known brands and businesses that work with us use. You would be shocked, so don't feel like you're in a unique position. So with that being said, Samantha, can you go ahead and send out those polls?
Yes. So the what GRC solution do you currently use poll is up and running right now. Looks like a little bit over half of everyone has voted. We're going to leave this up for just a few more seconds for those who don't have this up on their screen.
And I can't see anything, and I've never done this before, so I need someone to tell me when it's done and if it actually worked. But
I will.
again,
I
thank
will
you
for
everybody
sure.
for doing this.
It is currently working. As you guys can tell, this is something we're trying really for the first time. So looks like we have a lot of responses for Teammate Plus, quite a few for Archer, a lot for Other, really interesting as well.
Awesome.
We're going to close this in about 5 seconds here. All right, I'm going to end that poll, and now I am going to launch the poll for what are you using to manage your resources today? And like Sean said, we see Excel a lot of times. We also see, people who are using maybe the tools that their PMO has as well, maybe a work management tool. Maybe you're not managing resources. Like Sean said, that is perfectly fine. You are here for a reason. So just going to give about a minute or so for this question as well. Sean, I'm bummed you can't see this because it's really fun to see all these results pour in.
I know I probably can, but I don't want to touch the computer because everything seems to be working, and you know how that goes.
I totally get it. I'm okay with that. All right, we have a lot of people saying Excel, yes. A handful of people saying we're not managing our resources today. And
again,
guys,
Excel that's the most common platform we see, and the companies we work with that build the next generation of drugs, next generation of technologies, go to different planets. They started in Excel before coming to us, so that's quite acceptable. And in fact, when we get to the demo side of things at the very end, we'll show how in a few minutes you can move all those Excel data, whether it's 10 audits, 10,000 audits, into Tempus really rapidly.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we'll do a few more seconds here, and for those of you who noticed this, I spelled hour completely wrong. That's what you get when you're editing things last minute. So, All right, we have most of the votes in, and Excel was the clear winner, as we know.
Awesome.
All right, Sean, I have ended the polls. You are good to move forward.
Fantastic. Thanks, Samantha. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. Apologies for any inconvenience, but it's always helpful for us to capture that info. Okay, so I'd like to begin with a central thesis, one that reflects our philosophy at Prosymmetry, and it may seem self-evident, but you'd be surprised, maybe not, how often it's overlooked by decision makers running audit organizations, and not just audit, by the way, it's much wider. But quite simply, without the right people, the work doesn't get done, period. Now, presumably, you're here today because you agree with the statement on the screen. It doesn't matter how much budget you allocate or how many priorities you outline at the start of the year. Without the right people, the right skills, roles, and teams, your audits, your projects, your keep the lights on activities, your objectives, they just simply won't happen. This truth applies across all areas of strategy execution, whether it's R&D, product development, IT, or most importantly today, internal audit. And among the organizations we work with, internal teams audit teams are uniquely impacted by this challenge. Think about the factors in internal audit that drive your resourcing challenges. They're super dynamic. Business transformations, shifting legal and regulatory frameworks, geopolitical dynamics, language and cultural factors, and even technological advancements. I'd imagine right now, for instance, many of you are likely grappling with the implications of AI. How are models trained across your vendors and others that you interact with? Concerns around data leakage related to AI, ensuring compliance in the face of this evolving technology. So internal audit consistently interfaces with a highly volatile set of resource skills, capabilities, and subject matter expertise. So again, no matter how much money you have, no matter how well you prioritize, if you don't have the right people, skills, and roles, your audit plan just won't happen. Okay, so if we can all agree, that without the right people, it's impossible to achieve our goals and objectives, then doesn't it follow that we need to focus on how we track, measure, plan, and replan? That's important. Our resources. In other words, you better get really good at doing resource management. So today, I plan to show you how to maximize the benefits of planning and managing your resources using Tempus Resource. How to get the most value out of planning without making it overly complicated or time consuming. That's going to be really critical. How to simplify resource planning and ensure we get the maximum impact for our efforts. Can I get the visualizations I need? Can I get the gap analyses? Can I identify skill shortages in the near, mid, and long term? Can I reshuffle my monolithic annual audit plan on a monthly, quarterly, weekly basis, or really whenever I want to answer questions across the business? I mean, imagine having the capability to rapidly forecast and reforecast your annual audit plan. What if in the face of changing business priorities or some externality, you could rapidly modify your audit plan to most effectively deploy your limited resources, while at the same time identifying those critical gaps in the near, mid, and long term, and being able to effectively communicate it across the organization. And that's really important. And that's what Tempus can help you achieve. So getting good at this will have a real and measurable benefit to your organization. Now, if we all agree that effective resource management is critical to the success of audits and projects and strategic initiatives, the next logical question is, are audit leaders actually prioritizing this? The answer, thankfully, is a resounding yes. And we don't have to guess. Leading analysts, leading consulting firms, and industry reports show that chief audit executives consistently rank resource management as a top priority for 2025 and beyond. In fact, this has been fairly consistent the past couple of years, but remains that way today. And again, this kind of goes without saying, but I'll do it again. Why? Look, the landscape of internal audit is changing, and probably faster than ever. You're likely facing more audits with fewer resources, or at least a static mix. Audit teams are being asked to do more with less, increasing the need for smarter resource planning. You probably are dealing with skill shortages and retention challenges, which is consistent across not just internal audit, but R&D, product dev, IT, and elsewhere. So finding and keeping qualified auditors and others that have specialized audit-related skills is getting harder. We all know that the regulatory complexities are increasing. As compliance requirements evolve, audit leaders need to be able to flexibly shift resources quickly. And risks are constantly emerging and evolving. Audit organizations need to be agile enough to respond in real time. Okay, so despite knowing how critical resource planning is, there's many internal audit groups still struggle to implement a structured approach to managing their people. Many fall back on spreadsheets, as I think was indicated in the poll that just went out, or oftentimes they try to wedge in GRC products, ERP products, HRIS platforms to do a job that they're just really not designed to do. Now, what I'm showing on the screen now, and I really pared this down because I had evidence from probably a half dozen different sources, but we're hooked on the Gartner stuff, so and they do a really good job with some of their graphics, so it made sense to show it. But this is from Gartner's Leadership Vision for 2025, top 3 strategic priorities for chief audit executives. And you'll see smack in the middle here, 46% of chief audit executives named improving audit department efficiency and productivity as a top 3 priority for 2025 and beyond. And if we drill into that a bit further, there's 2 sub-measures here that I think are really closely tied in with resource management, if not like literally tied at the hip. Structuring audit resources for effectiveness. 42% of CAEs struggle to determine the optimal structure and staffing needs of their departments. I mean, that is just straight up resource management. 39% of chief audit executives report their auditors struggle to effectively project manage their engagements, leading to delays and cost overruns. And as I mentioned previously, our philosophy around delivery is all about the resourcing side of the equation. All right. So if audit leadership recognizes this as a top priority, the next question is, how do we actually solve it? And that's what we're going to explore. I think this is a super helpful slide. Again, we're We're Prosymmetry. Our product is Tempus Resource, purpose-built for resource forecasting and capacity planning. So we're going to check all of these boxes. When it comes to resource management, many organizations, maybe not any on the call today, but they'll rely on that existing stack of enterprise applications. They likely have just an absolute soup of enterprise apps. They're going to have GRC systems, ERP platforms, HRIS and HCM solutions and they try to address in some cases their resource planning challenges with this tool set. And these are all super powerful and super expensive, I may add, solutions in their own right, but they're just not designed for resource management. All right, and that's again why probably many of you start to look at using Excel for this. The bottom line is our product, Tempus Resource, isn't just a nice to have. It's the missing piece in this enterprise technology stack. It's purpose-built to solve this resource management challenge that your GRC, ERP, and HRIS platforms, as well as Excel, just simply can't solve. Now, if you take a look at each one of these columns, GRC applications are going to excel at compliance and risk tracking, obviously, but they don't help you plan how resources will be deployed and or how they'll be shifted to meet changing demands and priorities. ERP systems, they're focused on typically financials, procurement, operational workflows, not on, again, dynamically planning and reallocating auditors, teams, and other resources. And HRIS, this can get a little murky, but the truth is they're fantastic for managing people data, but not as it relates to actually planning. They're great, obviously, for payroll and for benefits and certain compliance factors, but they don't address real-time tactical resource allocation challenges you're going to face every day. In fact, what can be complicating with some of these is that many of these platforms will house things like enterprise skill inventories, but they're almost always HR focused. And the HR focused skill planning stuff, it's almost useless at a tactical level for planning your auditors and, of course, for optimizing the design of your audit organization, given the demands that you're going to face on a day-to-day basis. And that challenge of that HR-focused skill inventory is not just internal audit. We see that in product dev, R&D, IT all the time. So really what we have in these HRIS platforms really aren't useful. Stepping through on the through these blue boxes here, Tempus is going to help you fill all these gaps where none of these products are going to solve them directly. It's going to give you real-time visibility into resource capacity, utilization, and gaps, essential for making informed decisions through analytics, insight, what-if analysis capabilities that we'll talk through. Also, when priorities shift, you can instantly, with Tempus, model different scenarios to understand the impact on timelines, resources, and even budgets. We're focusing on the resourcing side today, but if you did eventually get mature enough and say, well, now we want to factor in the costs that are part of this audit process, that can be introduced. Again, we see more of that on the IT, product dev, and R&D side. Today your audit plans might be sort of annual monoliths, but with Tempus in place, you can dynamically adjust that canvas to plan and replan as frequently as you desire. Simplifying how you size your work is also going to be really critical to adoption and usability and reflect how people actually think about planning resources, which is also why people wind up going to Excel in a lot of cases when they just aren't aware that we're here. Tempus is modeled closely on how you would input and manage data in Excel. So when you plan your audits, you keep the lights on, or operational activities, we make it intuitive and efficient and allow you to plan at the audit level or task level, whatever you want, by team, by role, by resource, using percentages, FTE, hours, person days, cost, or even story points if you've gone down the agile, scaled agile type of rabbit hole. With Tempus, you can strategically align your workforce to meet both short-term goals and long-term objectives by, again, planning with both named resources as well as generic placeholders and or teams. And when it comes to resource competencies and skills, and this is really critical for our internal audit customers because this is such a key part of keeping up with that very volatile and dynamic set of skills and knowledge and subject matter expertise that's needed, all of that can be tracked and managed directly in Tempus, ensuring that the right people are always matched to the right assignments, and that's all visible when you go to do things like resource request workflows, resource replacements, requesting resources. I can quickly get insight to see, well, what level are they certified in a particular accounting methodology or cyber security technology that can all be directly managed in the system. And you can also create self-assessments so that end users can assess and tell you what their knowledge is and what they know, or it can be set by managers or through integration. And you can also track ongoing training requirements directly in the product as well, where you can attach certifications, resumes, and other certs that you might wish to capture. Right. Again, bottom line, Tempus is going to do all these things for you, and you'll see that as we jump into the demo here in just a moment. And then one last but super important point, Tempus seamlessly integrates with these platforms. We are doing this all over the world, many hundreds of large enterprise customers, and they will all have a mix of these products. We have an open API. You can create these integrations on your own with your preferred systems integrator, with our help, and we have plugins and connectors across the board. So we're not telling you, hey, move out of these products, not at all. In fact, Tempus is typically helping customers get more value out of their GRC platform, more value out of their ERP, and more value out of their HRIS, because it is just purpose-built to do this resource management stuff. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to the live demo. Now, normally we'd start sort of from the ground up of let's get data in and let's configure the resource pool and let's start assignments. I want to start with, hey, we've got all of our data in the system. How can I look at my audit plan? How can I see a gap analysis? How can I now dynamically shift my audit plan around based on priorities and preference and see what effect that's going to have? How do I then get insight across my audits, my planned allocations? How do I get additional data science type of insight into what's taking place across my skills, allocations, roles? And then from there, start drilling down into more of the details. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into a demo environment. And give me 1 second. Hopefully I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, so I'm in Tempus. Tempus is 100% web-based application, highly secured. We've got every audit thing done in the world, the SOC 2, the SOC 1, the ISO 2701, GDPR compliant, all of that. If you have questions on that stuff, please feel free to send that across. Highly secure. It also has a tamper-proof internal audit log. So every change made by any user over the life of the product's use is retained, both for analytical purposes and, of course, for audit and compliance. Now, once we have all of our data in the system, and we'll talk through that in a moment, we unlock a huge volume of capabilities here that are tremendously valuable, not just for the resource management side, but also specifically around internal audit. And what I've done here is I've created a what-if model. These are super simple to define. Think of them like their own little virtual twin of your live data. And what I've done ahead of time is I dropped in some roles, I created some assignments, I cloned a bunch of projects and set them up as audits. And I'm looking over a 3-year window and I'm seeing a mix of different audits that I'd like to perform. And I'm seeing right now, based on all the audits I'm being asked to deliver as part of this audit plan, what does the actual allocation look like across my team? And I can see that, and bear with me on some of the roles, I didn't have a chance to change them all up to staff auditor, senior auditor, cyber auditor, and so on. That's in the system, and I'll show you how that's done in a separate screen in a moment. But all of this is entirely configurable by you. But right out of the gate, before I do anything and push back on management or make recommendations on what can be done or try to optimize the flow of audits across my resource environment and my portfolio of audits, I can quickly look at heat maps to see what's driving the demand, which audits are most heavily impacting roles, skills, teams, individual resources. This can all be viewed by various timeframes, yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, using hours, FTE, and costs. Heat maps, of course, across the board. Cool maps showing us density of under allocations, graphing views with supply-demand information, and grid views showing us the net availability. Sort of, is there a surplus or a deficit? And something as simple as, well, I just want to understand what does my gap look like, my gap analysis. I can quickly run a gap analysis live in my audit plan before I've made any adjustments to it to see out of the gate, I have a gap of nearly 3.5 FTEs in January, 2.5 in March. And you can see those across the board very quickly and in real time based on our audit plan's construction. Now, as we look at the current makeup of this audit plan, I can use various fields, prioritization values, or other inputs to then make decisions on what we want to move around. So if I'm trying to organize my audit plan for the year, I might first take a look at maybe the analyst group, and I see which audits are driving that. And right now I've created a bunch of clones, so they're all sort of equal, but I could create fields or insert fields here to tell me how to prioritize these. And maybe we start with maybe, how about audit B? So here's audit B, and we can in real time shift these around and say, you know what, audit B can start around July. There's knowledge I have of why that's important or why that's realistic. There might be other audits where let's see what's impacting our executive group, maybe audit C. Again, I can shift, cancel, expand, contract, split, modify the internals of the assignments. There's a huge volume of activities that I can perform, and I can even take individual assignments out of the audit, cancel them, clone them, create linkages between them without altering any of the live data. Maybe for audit C, I want to perform audit C over twice the amount of time I originally planned. And maybe I want to shift audit D. The point being, I can use this in real time without changing any of my live data to plan and replan my portfolio of audits, portfolio of projects, overall the audit portfolio in light of planned projects, keep the lights on activities, operational work, and anything else that my auditors and my audit organization may be pulled into. Additionally, instead of having to go and create a bunch of audits in the system, you might say that, look, next year I'm going to do another, or someone asked if we do another audit like audit E, and maybe this one's roughly 20% longer. Maybe we're going to do 2 more of them, and they're going to start around the same time frame. Let's go ahead and add those in. Let's call this audit Z. Save that. Okay. So now those are added directly to my simulated audit plan. Here's audit EZ and EZ2. And I can now, again, start sequencing that work in the event that I'm asked to plan and prepare for these unplanned engagements, unplanned audits that might be the result of, again, an externality, a black swan event, or simply an acquisition or an executive saying, we're going to do more of these. The point being, I can come up with an unlimited number of the scenarios to identify and optimize the flow of audits through my organization and consistently answer questions, improve the credibility of the audit group, improve how we deliver, and optimize the flow of work through our audit organization, paying careful and close attention to our resourcing. You can also rapidly introduce existing audits into your audit plan, maybe that are in a proposed or excluded state. And you can even ask Tempus, well, if I'm going to do this, when can I get this project done? Or when can I get this audit done? And based on the resources needed to perform this audit over the next 3 years, and I can bring this back and say maybe until October of 2026, I've got 2 options and both are terrible. I can only get 35% of what I need. Now you can drill into each one and see why. And again, this is more of my setup for this demo, but this is obviously particularly nasty. But I could look at it from the standpoint of the named resources, or I could look at it from the standpoint of the resource aggregation and say, if I'm willing to replace the people that are part of this audit, and I don't want the named individuals, but I'm okay with the same mix of staff auditor, senior auditor, cyber auditor, data analyst, whatever they may be, well, then the best I can do is 91% starting in September of 2025, because I can see the various roles and skills that are needed to achieve this. So you can look at this decision-making through multiple lenses. The point being, this what-if analysis engine sits on top of all of the data inside of your instance of Tempus to let you answer these questions in real time and formulate better options and optimize your portfolio in light of all the work that you have and your various constraints. Now, on top of all this what-if analysis capabilities, you're going to find a range of advanced report writing capabilities here. I had to switch browsers, long story. But sitting on top of all of this are analytics to give you a data-driven approach to what's taking place across your audit organization. With Tempus, we do support very simple drag and drop pivot table, pivot graph style reports and supply-demand analytics, but we can also get much more sophisticated with advanced dashboards that can be auto-delivered, provide us with real-time alerting, and if allowed, can introduce additional AI capabilities. You'll find a range of either pre-built or customizable dashboards and reports. Here's an audit resource statistics report showing us the amount of work, capacity, the amount of time booked, and booked by location. We can also view information about plan versus actuals. This has become very important for many of our customers, is how much are we planning and how much are we actually getting done? Is there a major step change or function change between what I'm planning and what we're actually delivering? How efficient and effective are our resources? I can also drill into my skills information. So across the organization, do I have certain density of skills and skill compliance throughout the organization? Is that being met? Am I breaching it? Am I not in compliance with where I'd like to be with regards to my level of skilling? And where does upskilling exist across the organization? And then we can get even more sophisticated with, again, data science level capability. So all of the data that you're using to plan your resources, do your what if analysis, it can all be surfaced rapidly in great detail through our advanced report writing capabilities, many of which ship directly with the product. Others you can extend to whatever level you need. And again, these reports can be auto-delivered to you. They can alert you when certain issues have come about. And you'll even find capabilities here that the product will tell you which report types are most optimal to tell a story more effectively. Okay, so advanced reporting and insights are all part of the platform in addition to this what-if analysis engine. So we've started at that really high level of how am I going to maximize this capability across my business. Now, how do we support this? How are the data in the system? How are they managed? Very simple. Again, unlike other more task-oriented products, we focus on the resourcing side. So when it comes to setting up new audits, and in this case, you're seeing project management, but these just as easily be audits. We can change that wording. And I've got a view here showing me my internal audit universe. I'll expand all of these, and you can now see all of my audits, their dates, their audit area, whether it's cybersecurity, data privacy, governance and compliance, or elsewhere, and any and all attributes you wish to maintain. Everything can be edited directly inline. We support bulk inline editing, bulk snapshotting, a huge volume of visualizations. And you can create entirely new audits, either that go through workflows of approvals, or maybe start from predefined templates, which you can manage directly in the product. If you start from scratch, super simple. We'll go ahead and create an entirely new project. You can set up forms and other interfaces to collect attributes about the audit, all of these fully configurable, maybe capturing strategy alignment, maybe capturing the prioritization values, leadership associations. Again, an unlimited set of attributes that you can define on your own. And then when it comes to planning, where we like to align ourselves as closely with Excel as we can, is we make this super, super simple. So if I'm planning, let's say, audit XYZ, I'm going to say that, hey, this audit is probably going to start in March, and it's going to go, if we think it's about 6 or 7 months long, or 5 months, whatever that is. I now am presented with a super simple but highly capable Excel-like interface to do this planning. And I could either plan at the resource level, where I could simply say I'm looking for an audit analyst. Maybe I need a senior auditor. I'm going to need an IT auditor, and maybe I'm going to need an audit data analyst. And I can now define this by hours, cost, FTE, FTE percentage, person days, or story points by day, week, month, quarter, year, project, fiscal month, fiscal quarter. And I might even say, I'm not going to give you a breakout. I'm just going to say for the entire audit, and by headcount, I need one senior auditor, I need 2 IT auditors, and I need half of an IT or an audit data analyst. So it's as simple as it possibly gets to do this forecasting. And this all flows through into the analytics, dashboards, and what if analysis. So once I go ahead and create this, now depending upon how you're using the system, this might flow through into resource request workflows. There might be a number of steps taken to approve this work, but we'll keep it super, super simple. And as we're working through this audit, once I have my sort of roles that I want to allocate against this audit, over time, I can begin to chip away at this. And I can do that a few different ways. One is I might say, well, I'm ready to break this out now by month, in which case I can begin contouring the work, again, using any of those units of measure. Maybe the senior auditor isn't needed during the sort of the middle periods of the audit. Maybe the IT auditor starts 2 months late. Maybe the data analyst also starts a month or two late, and I can now contour this work and continue to chip away at it. Ultimately, whether it's through a workflow or directly through the application, I can do things like, well, I'm going to conduct a resource replacement. I'm going to move the senior auditor, and I see the hours or cost or FTE, and I'm going to look at my people, which could be the senior auditors that report to me. All of this is configurable. I'm going to look at their roles, their locations, their skills information, which they've done as a self-assessment, and their remaining availability. And I can now make the determination that, you know what, Colin Moreno fits the bill here. I'm going to do a replace, conduct a replacement, and I've now swapped out that senior auditor for Colin Moreno. But I still see that I have at least a partial amount remaining for a senior auditor. So I can continue chipping away at this over time. All right, so there's a range of features and capabilities here that let you, either through workflows or through direct replacement, start very high level with roles, skills, or even teams of resources, and then conduct replacements ultimately into the named auditors or named audit support resources throughout the life of that audit. All super, super simple to do directly inside of the UI. You'll also find throughout the product mechanisms here for capturing details. For example, if I wanted to make a notification here that, let's say audit planning committee made decision on Friday, something, and I can then use notifications directly in-app as well as through Teams notifications. So as you're doing your planning and modifications, this can all be integrated with your communications channels, so members that are subscribed or are mentioned can receive notifications through Teams as you're working through this particular audit. We'll go ahead and send that. In addition, there's a range of other capabilities, milestones, team building, files, lists. But again, staying high level, resource planning, exceptionally simple to do on a project by project basis. And you can also simply clone audits. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, you could rapidly clone an audit, specify that you want to clone it, choose what you want to clear out of it, set a new date, and save. So if you're doing sort of recurring or reoccurring audits that essentially look identical, but they're happening at different points in time or different, over different years. Maybe for different systems, you have audits that take place not every year, but every other year or every 3 years. That can all be done very easily using this cloning capability, or through workflows or through imports. The sort of options here are endless. Okay. Now, in addition to planning by individual audit, a unique capability you're going to find in Tempus is this ability to do bulk level planning and forecasting. And here's an example. And this one very clearly mimics what we see from customers that send us their unbelievable Excel files, is one single interface with common milestones, planning intervals, attributes, people, projects, audits, keep the lights on, heat mapping, milestones, all in one screen. So you can look at your entire audit universe by person, by role, by department, by location. So here's my staff auditors. I see all of them here. I can drill into all of the projects that they're assigned to, view their net availability, view their allocation percentages, and I can shift and modify these assignments. So you can do things as simple as I want to move this out a number of months, we can do that. Or, and you'll see this allows for concurrent real-time editing, or I can do, as you saw previously, that bulk replacement. So I can go find the appropriate auditors or others to replace with. The point being, this gives me one interface to manage my entire audit universe in one screen. I'm not going audit by audit. I view them all in one grid, can adjust and level and manipulate in one interface to save myself time and make this an effective process that yields benefits, not a ton of extra overhead. Okay, now a few more things. I know this stuff gets kind of dense and I can talk endlessly about the product. There's a ton of capability, but I do want to show you the resource setup. Now, getting resources in, this can be done very easily through Excel upload, API, cloning, all those things exist. We can manage all of our resource attributes here, and we can manage not just individual resources, but we can also manage teams of resources. If you have gone down the path of considering Agile-related methodologies, being able to plan both at an individual resource level as well as by teams that are made up of those same individuals is going to be a really very powerful and enabling capability that we serve and have uniquely. We let you recognize the reality that you're going to plan people individually. You're also probably going to plan the teams, and you're going to mix and match. Some of those methodologies want you to be very strict that once someone's on a team, you can only allocate the team. But we know from practice, none of our customers listen to that, and they still pull people off of teams as needed whenever they like. And we let you build all of that directly into the teams in Tempus. Now, if I pick on a particular resource, I'm going to grab Rachel Churchill here. And you'll see a range of factors here. Number one, rate structures can be included if there's escalating rates over time, security, any and all fields you wish to manage and maintain, attributes, departments, locations, managers, again, all of that entirely configurable, position role, audit title, overall title, reports to, all of that here. You're also going to find their audit log as well as their capacity information. Which calendars are applied to that resource? How many working hours do they support by week, by day, by month? And what is their FTE association? You'll also find any files related to that resource if you wish to do so. Maybe onboarding documentation, resumes, compliance documents, continuing education documentation. And we can also, of course, track each resource's skills inventory, which they can maintain on their own through a self-assessment, through upload, or using any other mechanism you choose. But this is going to be critical as it flows through into making decisions around resource replacements, resource approvals, the skills mix, and also the opportunity to upskill across your organization. And then in addition, we have this ability to create these custom lists that allow your end users to do things like submit training, to maybe submit security awareness training, ethics training, continuing education, whatever it may be. Here's an example of one where an end user can come in here and specify they completed, we'll just say, security training. We can specify the date. We did it on the 13th. Description, there were 5 credit hours. Training type was related to ethics. I can drag and drop documents here. We'll go ahead and save. Now, all of this information is available here as well as in reporting and also throughout some of the other interfaces like that advanced reporting and insights capability we mentioned previously. Real briefly, if we head back here to the resource inventory, I do want to show you, because it is a unique capability. If we look at team resources, and we'll go ahead and remove any filters, I have one resource here called Team Z. What is unique about our team resource planning capability and why it can be so powerful for audit organizations, IT organizations, and others is that if we take a look at the team capacity setup, this lets us specify who is a member of the team and what percentage of their overall time is dedicated to the team. You may have people come and go from a team. You may have people 100%. You may have people 50%, maybe 50% on multiple teams. But the reality is people won't just be 100%, and it will change over time. We let you do all of that, so when you go to plan the teams, the team constitution accurately represents that team's build and how it's made up. And that's a unique capability you're not going to find in other platforms. Okay, so named resources, generic placeholders, roles, skills, all fully available. Super simple to plan, super simple to conduct your what-if analysis and planning and replanning of your audit plan, and of course, performing any and all analytical operations, driving a data-driven approach to resource management. And then when it comes to getting data in the system, I just wanted to briefly show, and there's always a risk. I'm an ex-Microsoft guy, so I've seen every blue screen possible. But getting data into Tempus, we have a range of connectors. Here's the Excel connector. It's just super simple to do. If I want to move, in this case, I've got something like 50 projects in this Excel file. We'll jump to our project import. There's always a risk when you do these live. I haven't checked anything. Hit synchronize. Interrupt sync. It's rolling. 49 projects, reading database state, and it's going to walk through this. And this is not warmed up, and it's a test environment. There we go. And we've just imported 49 projects. So it's really simple to bulk load attributes, resources, projects, or audits, assignment data, admin time, skills, sheets data, advanced rates, as well as financials that you're not seeing here. And all of that then is pushed in. Here's our project screen, you're going to see all of these under no value. There they are. So really simple to mass load data into the system. So again, as I said earlier, you don't want a system that's so encumbering that you won't use it. You need something easy, simple, but that still offers really sophisticated capabilities around what if, insights, and analytics. So with that being said, I'm going to stop at this point and thank everybody. Again, thank you for your time. I hope this was enjoyable. There's so much more we want to share. We can talk in this stuff for days and days, but again, I recognize you've got a limited amount of time and a limited attention span for someone to talk at you for this long. So thank you again. We do offer free trials, so I would encourage you to reach out to learn more. You can talk with other members of our team to learn more about Tempus, and of course, anytime you have questions, feel free to reach out and set up some time to talk to us about how you can streamline your audit planning around resource management. So thank you again for joining, and with that, I'll hand it back to Samantha. Samantha, anything you want to close on?
No, nothing to close on. I mean, Sean, you covered a lot here, and specifically just about the need for resource planning and, how to easily do it with Tempus. Like we mentioned earlier, we have several internal audit organizations, whether they're from a financial background, an insurance background, a government background, all of those lovely industries. And this is an area of internal audit planning that we really see growing and really see the need for. So I hope some of you reach out for a trial. Hope we get the chance to talk to you a little bit more. But thank you so much for your time today. Like I said, we'll follow up with the questions individually, but I really appreciate it. And Sean, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.